Episode 9, One Big Team podcast. I seem to be getting more and more grateful with each episode. Super grateful today to be sitting next to one of my best friends, Jono Zissi, who's the head coach at Torrey Pines High School in San Diego, California. He has a hand in a lot of lacrosse experiences and teams and lives every day. That's what he's doing. He's a coach and he's helping people navigate this experience. Super proud to call him a friend, call him a mentor, to have him in person in the studio as a gift. Jono, thank you for being here, my friend.
Appreciate it, man. Happy to be here. Good to see you too.
It's going to be a blast.
It's been a whole month.
It's been a whole month, dude. It's been too long. I had you on the first podcast over Zoom before we had ever met in person, and was going back and listening to that and was proud of the conversation we were able to have. Very confident today will be a really impactful listen for whoever finds this podcast, and I'm sure many people will. For the listeners who are not familiar with you, your path to how you've ended up in this seat now, could you kind of give us an overview, maybe even childhood, your accomplishments as a coach, and to where you are now?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me on. Second of all, I like to think that our relationship has grown so much in those 2 years that this conversation is going to be a home run.
Yes.
But the quick background is born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. Grew up playing a multitude of sports. Lacrosse wasn't one of them. Always loved competing. Always loved keeping stats. Always loved going to games, watching games. Sports kind of was my vehicle to staying on the straight and narrow. And it made me who I was. Got to high school, tried lacrosse for the first time as a freshman, super late to the game. Was able to use crossover skills from other sports to be okay, and found some confidence in the sport. And then it became sort of my passion. Played in college. I went to Tufts University and really grew my love for the sport, competition, and for coaching at the time. Sort of felt like I was a coach in the field, and I was always doing more and studying more, and became really into team dynamics. Moved out to San Diego, furthest place away from Boston. Went there for 3 months. Obviously, you've dabbled with this as well.
Yes.
Tough place to leave, magical place. Went to grad school there and stayed. I've been there for 23 years, and I've been coaching high school lacrosse. And my life's work has been kids and fostering relationships, and helping them grow, both as a teacher for 8 years and as a coach and leader for the last.
Yeah, and then can you just touch on the other two organizations, Adrenaline and West Coast Stars, for those who, a lot of lacrosse fans listen, a lot of other people, but those are two big, enterprises, organizations. If you could touch on those.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, I did graduate school and taught for 8 years. Was coaching 3 sports all 3 seasons. And then lacrosse has just gotten so big that I merged over and helped start a company called Adrenaline, which is a multitude of things. It's apparel, it's events, it's youth teams, it's club teams, and the club team entity is West Coast Stars, which pulls the best lacrosse players from all over the West for West of Colorado, brings them together for tournaments, and ultimately helps them together.
Yes.
So it's a lot of different things going on. The same principles behind all of them are helping kids and being that sort of agent of change, and you're able to help them move their heads forward.
I love it. All right. So we were on the way here, and you're throwing out the number. You've been coaching high school lacrosse for 23 years. Incredible. So much experience, so many lives changed. You've been to 27 weddings of players that you've coached, which I think is an amazing stat. And over 23 years, the books you read, the conversations you have, the experience, the wins, the losses, you grow, you develop. In your 23rd season, we got to spend it together because I was with you on the staff at Torrey Pines this spring. 23 years. If you're finding this podcast, it's a first-year coach or it's a first-year varsity player, right? That's a lot of wisdom and knowledge that you could pull from. What did you learn in your best season yet? Because I know that's your mindset. I know next year is going to be your next best season. What did you learn this past season that can maybe be of service to others?
Well, I think there's certainly a recency bias, no doubt, but I really do feel like this past season was the best for a number of reasons. One, you being there was great. 2, the dynamic of the team, having such a strong and dialed in senior class to be like, I felt like we were steering that ship together with them, empowered them, gave them sort of the keys to the car, which is really challenging as a coach. I think the biggest things I've learned, one of which is control. New coaches are always afraid if they don't control every single aspect of practice or the team or the kids that won't function. I think the best thing we did this year was give the kids a lot of empowerment.
Totally.
Large part of that was you and what we do for our team. And I think the biggest thing is like not to think less of yourself, but to think of yourself less. So like what I mean by that, it's not always all about you. It's, a good leader isn't being in control. A good leader is creating more leaders.
Yes.
And I think why this year was so awesome was our seniors really took control of that team, and they were the ones line. So to say that I do less this year in some capacity, I would say maybe.
Yeah.
And sometimes less is more. And it's all part of that evolution. And to think back to where I was my first year of coaching, I had no assistants. I got hired a month before. I mean, learned a lot on the fly, made a lot of
Yeah.
mistakes. Fortunately, they were nice enough to kind of let me screw up here and there, but it's terrifying. And it's also like brilliant to see
Yes.
how far I've come.
Yeah.
To see where I started is a little scary, but to see where we are now, it's awesome. And I'm going to try to keep evolving, because if you're not evolving, you're
Yeah. A lot of things to pull on there, but I do want to ask the question, was this your vision, right? Was the vision to be one of the best high school coaches in the country, to win championships, to build a culture that other people try to model after? How clear was that in your first, second, and third year in coaching to where you are now?
I think the competitive side of me is, and you know this, is to want to win everything you do, whether it's, a game or a championship or just a practice. I think becoming less process obsessed, more process obsessed and less outcome obsessed, it has helped me. We lost 3 championships by a goal, and the devastation that left me with, just on a personal level, was so much that I was thinking so much of my identity into, did we win a championship or not? And,
Sure.
am I of worth or am I a failure? And that's not the name of this game. And you can't live your life like that. There's so many beautiful moments or great things that happened along those years that I was failing to see.
Yeah.
And I think, the biggest growth point is much more enjoying the moment, enjoying the ride, and less outcome driven. Don't get me wrong. We've been winning, say that right now, but that's the biggest thing. Attaching less of my identity to win losses and more how much I can help.
I love it. That's a great one. I mean, that's a super common thing that most athletes at some point come up against, which is they care so much about their craft, they care so much about the sport, that unknowingly they've built their entire identity around their excellence they put out on the field, the outcome. And when that outcome isn't what they desire, then they have friction and they have resistance, and it can become a burden that they wear, and it can be a much more pressure filled situation. You've put such an emphasis with the Torrey Pines team, which this is also so freaking cool, because when we had the first conversation on the podcast, I had never been in the room with you guys. I never saw the way that we operate now, and to see it and to be back, to be able to kind of pull the layers off for people, it's going to be really cool going forward. This concept of identity, one of the core principles, core values, is character. How do you guide your players to build a more well-rounded identity and to put character at the forefront of what you do, and how it's so much more than the outcome on a Friday night game? Can you just talk about why it's a value for anyone to build their character and have a much broader identity than just one outcome?
Yeah, I think, if you're doing all the little things right, big things add up quickly. And I took that program over, and it was a complete mess. It was in shambles. There had actually been a fatality. Like, things were as bad as they could possibly be. I remember walking around the campus the first day and teachers being like, God, you're the new coach, the lacrosse team. Good luck to you. So the focus had to become character-based and start from the bottom up. And you realize that the more you do for others, the better you ultimately feel about yourself.
Yeah.
They've done so many studies about these groups. They took 3 groups. One of them, ones I'm thinking about, they took 3 groups, had one of the groups do things for others, actual like helping traits and activities. One was sitting there and thinking good thoughts for other people in your mind. And then the last one was doing some self-care and stuff for yourself. And they found that the variable groups, the first one felt the best, that helped others. The second one that thought thoughts for others was the best. And the group that helped themselves felt like the least reward. And so the more that we can do in our community and become the community-based team, which we are, the better we're going to be on all facets of people and maturity and connectedness.
Yeah.
Lacrosse piece will find itself on the road. But I think we are the community team.
Yeah.
6 towns filter Torrey. We've been at our games on Friday night. Little kids from all those are coming, and largely why they're coming is because what are we giving back and doing for the community? And so I'm all about it. I enjoy it personally. I know you do too. And like I said, the ultimate goal is creating the holistic person.
Yes. Yeah, but you talk about it all the time, better human beings. Can you talk about some of those community service initiatives that you guys have done over the years, the ones that are near and dear to your heart, and what you see your student athletes get from that experience over time?
Yeah, I think we've done a multitude of things. And I think part of the thing is just that knee jerk of start doing something, it becomes second nature. So you hope when the kids leave that they just start volunteering when they're on their own. And most of them are playing in college. They have to do that at the next level. It just becomes something they enjoy, that they know. The simplest one is all of our kids, for at least 10 of the years, were coaching the youth teams that they came up from.
Yep.
You're coaching 2 days a week. You're helping out. Kids become empowered to be in control.
Yep.
They can see what you and I have to deal with when kids don't listen.
Sure.
When kids run the wrong play, when kids are disobedient. Great for them.
Yep.
And then all those kids, come to our games because they're, infatuated with our guys and they have new heroes. So you're regrowing that next generation just simply by, giving your time.
Yeah.
And just caring a little bit.
Yep.
And that's the easiest one I find has been that giving back to the community, all its service, if you will, but it's just actually doing what you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the stories that comes to my mind when I was involved with this program, Sources of Strength. It is a youth suicide prevention program and a wellness program. And one of the trainers that was training me, he told this incredible story about himself. And he was a very misguided young person, didn't know what he wanted to do after high school, was really just kind of lost. And one of his neighbors was going to, I believe it was Africa, to do a service-oriented project for like a month. And he invited him. He knew that he was kind of struggling and didn't really have a path. And he said, "Hey, do you want to go on this trip with me and go help other people?" And at first he was like, "Go help people? Like, I need help. Like, I don't know what I'm doing." But sat on it and was like, "Yeah, once in a lifetime opportunity, I'm going to go." And he really was honest that he had no interest in trying to serve other people prior to that invitation. But then as he got there and he saw how much impact he could have, it opened up his whole world and then put him on the path that he's been on now. And this guy's a powerhouse of change. And he said, invite other people into service. And I think what I've been able to witness with your program is when you have high standards and you have a clear path, you have a vision, and you invite people into this experience, it's like, it's going to be hard. Like, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to hold you to this standard, but it can go a long way. What do you think of that concept of, holding young people to a high standard, building that culture so that they can rise up, and inviting them really into that next version of themselves?
I think you said it best when you're not calling kids out, but you're calling them up.
Yeah.
If we don't help kids reach or exceed their potential, we're kind of failing. That's the whole point of this, right? And so how do you do that? You have to have high standards, but there has to be sort of a happy medium of kids have to know how much you care. They have to believe in you. And that's through your track record and kind of backing up what you say with doing it with actions. And I think just having that vision, it's like, what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah.
When I die, no one's going to remember how many games I won or lost. They're going to remember how I made them feel and how many kids that I actually affected and had a relationship with.
Yeah.
And so you can never lose sight of that.
Yeah.
Obviously the winning is supplemented with all of it, but the legacy has to be how many people have you helped?
Yeah.
Or inspired.
Yes.
Or whatever the word you want to use. Empowered, like all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Young Jono Zissi, high school. I can only imagine how competitive, just so many great qualities come to mind, but I'm sure you can look back and go, man, I really could have used some guidance, right? So I'll do this one. So you've seen me work very closely with your team. What could Coach Maves have helped you with the most?
Not secretly, part of the reason why you've been with us is because we needed you more than anything, the coaching staff. But some of the best advice, getting back to your early question, when I was younger coach, was be the coach you needed when you were playing.
Yeah.
And as obsessed with sports as I was, and I was always doing my extra work and, trying to be the best at what I was doing, what I lacked was that awareness of the bigger picture and the whole team and sort of the community piece and the character piece and being held accountable for all the things that weren't just a sport base, not just being a good shooter in basketball, just wall ball. So I think, I got to college and was humbled pretty quick by a guy that had never played lacrosse. I'm coming from a top 10 high school program in the country. I go to a school that hasn't won many games. It's a new coach who has never played the sport. And he's 5 years old, really young guy. And I'm like, oh, what does this guy know? I know everything. I work hard. And I got humbled so quickly just from the off field sort of leadership point of view that guy actually changed and probably largely saved my life in a lot of ways. And I think when I graduated, I was like, it's amazing. This guy's done for me. And I want to be that for others.
Yeah. And
now this guy didn't help me with lacrosse really at all and got better.
Yes.
But that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because what he did for me was sort of like almost incredible.
Can we talk about that person and what some of those specifics are and what that relationship's like today?
Relationship today is great. Sort of my mentor, why I got into coaching. I think if you asked him, he would say I was a coach in the field and, I knew how to win. I knew how to get the most out of myself and how to push myself and how high standards. But what I didn't have was the ability to communicate with others, to understand empathy for others, to understand how to bring people up instead of just calling them out.
Sure.
I would get on guys and think I was holding them responsible, but I was just like an asshole, psycho teammate.
Sure.
So all of the ways to be a better teammate. I wasn't captain, which was disappointing, but at the same time, I didn't deserve it. Because it's just not about, oh, you worked really hard. That's yeah. So there were some very tough love moments. There were some call outs. There were some hard conversations, stuff that I'd been able to get away with in high school from being talented enough, from not having coaches that did that to me. And so, like you and I have always talked about, hard conversations and differences of opinion are challenging. Yeah, they're growth in these.
Yes.
And I had a hard time, but I grew a ton. And when I left that place, I remember like at the banquet, his speech being like, I've never seen someone evolve so much and grow so much. I'm thankful. Yeah, I was like,
yeah, means a lot. I think about earlier in the conversation, you'd mentioned how hard it was starting your coaching career, and then to where you are now, right? So a lot of people see the outcome, they see the success. I'm guilty of it too. I think social media influences this, that we just assume things are easy. And it's really cool, your willingness to admit wasn't a great leader. He didn't have the skills and the communication skills to read the room better. I just had this insane drive. Obviously, that competitive drive has led to so much success. It's like foundational. It's needed to be a high performer. But these soft skills, these things that, we've taken the time to really work with the guys at Torrey now on, they're not really natural, I find. Like, I was the same way. I was for a while just psycho competitor, my junior year as a captain in college, and didn't treat people the way that I treated them the next year. I learned, right? And I had more difficult conversations with the coach and recognized those things. And I think it's so important. And I know, and the point of this is like, you've developed so many great leaders, right? So your coach did that for you. You're now on a mission to do that for other people. And it's just a beautiful story in the way that those things come about. Can you talk about leadership development for your guys and why is that so important for you, a holistic person, putting them out into college as great people and they move on? And so many of your guys have gone on to be team captains at the best Division I schools, and then they go on and have successful careers. Why is that so important to you? What are some of the strategies that you have found the most success with in leadership development?
I mean, you and I were talking offline just sort of about the curriculum of what our kids are learning nowadays. And so sadly, you learn by doing. There's no playbook on how to coach. There's no playbook on really public speaking or addressing a group. I learned a few things in graduate school on how to be, aware teacher that was in the classroom for 8 years, but you don't get taught about empathy. You don't get taught about emotional intelligence. You don't really get taught about public speaking. So I'm coaching at the age of 22 for the first time. Very weak empathy and emotional intelligence skills. I'm still evolving. Not really a comfortable public speaker, but now I have 40 kids in front of me that don't know that. And so I'm learning all these on the fly. And I think, being able to equip our kids with the things that I was lacking, getting back to that earlier comment of what did I need? I wasn't taught any of these really important and vital skills, which they help you in life, but they help you be a better athlete and a better teammate. Yeah. It's like, you have to work twice as hard to be a good teammate as you do a good player. Like, how are we not practicing? It's the same thing with the weight room. Like, you have to practice to get stronger and lift. Like, we're not practicing mental skills. We're not going to practice empathy and emotional intelligence. And so bringing you on with your curriculum has been, the best decision I probably ever made. And it's important. Like, you need to equip them with all of these resources, and that puts you at such so lacrosse is I've learned this, over the years. Obviously our kids are talented, but it's such a small piece of it. Lacrosse. Yep. No doubt. If you don't have the foundation.
Yeah. And I love when, we were preparing for a game this season and last year when I was with you guys on my visits or over Zoom, and you're like, it's our culture. Like, it's our culture versus theirs. We're in a good place. I believe in our culture. Our culture's prepared. We've done this before. And the culture just being the culmination of our daily thoughts, words, and behaviors. And it really does, it makes up such a powerful experience when you're a part of a high performing culture. And I know when I was a part of the team the year before, just on a couple visits and Zoom calls, I remember talking to my team at the academy going, let's invest more in our culture, because we need to give as many kids as possible this type of experience. Not everybody's going to, I hope everybody does. But the reality is, as of right now, not everybody's going to be a part of a high performing culture. And we talk about behavior change. You can change because things are really painful. You can change because of an idea of a motivation, how good it's going to feel to achieve something. And then you also just change by getting in the room and being around better people. And you start walking and talking differently. And that's the power to me of a culture. It's like, just get these guys in the room, have the vision, have the standard, and watch the magic work. What are you most proud of when you just think of the culture of Torrey Pines?
I think that's a twofold thing that you just said, and I love it. Like, you come into our team room and you see every team picture on the wall since the program started in 2003. To pay homage to all the guys that came before, to pay homage to the guys that built the program and made what the Torrey Pines on the front of the jersey actually is right now. And you want to remember them, and you want to keep that high standard of winning and of hard work and of sacrifice. We always say if it was easy, everyone would do it, but we have a lot of attrition. But at the same time, the evolution of people always ask us, why are you guys doing breath work? Why do you guys have a team room? What are you guys doing with the mental performance coach? Why do you guys spend so much time on all these things and do so much service? And they won't understand it because we're evolving and we're thinking outside the box, pushing the envelope, and we're constantly trying to not change for the sake of changing, but change with the times.
Yes.
And change with the type of kids that we're getting and meeting them where they are, because the type of kid that we're getting now is not the same type of kid we got in 2008.
Yeah.
And we need to meet them where they're at, and their needs are different.
Yes.
Markedly different and more emotional, more cognitive. Just the differences are needed. And I think that's why we're evolving and doing things that are considered by others outside the box, unnecessary or too much. And I'm not going to be sort of told what to do. I'm going to make my own reality, and we're going to have a program that's different, special. And some might call it weird or unnecessary, but I think it's outstanding.
It is. It absolutely is outstanding. What do you think? I think a lot of times it's easy for people to pick at today's generation and, talk poorly about them. And then there's others that justify, like, hey, they're growing up in a different world, all that. But like, what are the strengths that you see? Let's just talk about the class that just graduated, the class of 2024, the past couple of years. When you look at this age, this generation, and it's so funny because how much time we spend with kids that age, it's the best job in the world. It's incredible. What do you see their strengths are, as future leaders in this world? Because I do want to highlight, I see a lot, and I have a lot of belief in kids these days. I really do. What do you see as their strengths?
I think they're much more well-equipped to survive on their own. I think because of the social media and the way of the world, like, they have more autonomy. They're able to figure things out on their own, good, bad, or otherwise. And I think that they just sort of have grown up faster because things have been more readily available quicker. There's obviously a tremendous downside with social media and the way of the internet. And I think comparison is the thief of joy. That's my biggest gripe with the overkill on the social media and where it's made kids sort of anxious and everyone's comparing one another. And I think there's, some lost hope because kids become hopeless a little bit by doing too much of that. But people that say, this generation is soft, or this generation doesn't listen, or I think you got to be better. You got to put the onus on yourself. Those kids have all of it in them. You just got to work it out. We're able to do that. I think our kids San Diego too has its own, slew of distractions. Going to high school a mile from the beach, with pretty people and a lot of fun things to do that aren't, grinding at night, 7:30 at night to do practice. You have to build in them a love for something. And I think our kids would love it. Otherwise they wouldn't show up, every night until 10.
I agree. I think it's a very autonomous group. They have been forced to grow up faster, but with that comes a maturity. With that comes a confidence in the way to navigate the world. I think it's on the adults in the room to create curriculums and environments where we can help them, get all of the skills to equip them for life. But you're absolutely right. They're human beings and we adapt. And I've seen kids work incredibly hard, way harder than my friends worked back in the day. And there were things that we did really well, but I definitely don't think it's a work ethic problem. I think we talked a lot this season about limiting distractions, so I'm very optimistic about, just more coaches like yourself leading young people into the best version of themselves. And I would love to go into now a little bit more, like, you have such a reach, right? So you have Torrey Pines in San Diego, and I'm sure we'll come back to talk about that culture, something you've spent so much time with. But you also have this incredible network of student athletes that you work with through West Coast Stars. And I've been fortunate to be a small part of that and see you work with kids from all these different states. It's a really unique thing, pulling families and kids together from all over the western part of the country to then go to another part of the country to go compete in a high level sport. Can you talk a little bit about that experience from your perspective, and what that's been like, maybe what you've learned as a leader, what challenges you see those people overcome, right? To go from one side of the country to the other almost every weekend in the summer to play this game. It's a very unique thing that you were able to see pretty consistently. Can you talk about the West Coast Stars program?
Sure. I think, my impetus in the beginning of getting into teaching, being in the classroom, was I love working with adolescents and helping them. And then it got so big that lacrosse piece became a full-time job. And I said, all right, where can I maybe help more people?
Mm-hmm.
I would argue through this club lacrosse stuff, which is enabling kids to get to the next level of their life, college, fulfill their passions, play the sport they love in college, and then move on to these great sort of lives that I've been able to see. Many of these guys now have children that I've seen. And so the whole evolution is wonderful. And it's also allowed me to meet more people.
Yeah.
I live in San Diego, a mile from where Torrey Pines is. I love the community feel of being there. But now through West Coast Stars, I've been able to meet so many wonderful families from Seattle, Oregon, San Francisco, Utah, wherever it may be. And the amount of kids that we're able to help through the club vehicle is awesome. And it's an unfortunate situation that everything is not proximal and they have to travel. But at the same time, the whole goal and the name of the game here is to help as many people as you can. And I think by including the geographic reach we have now, we're helping so many. And as well as anyone, as far as like a professional network, a lot of these families and dads and moms are really successful people. And for me to grow who I am, they always say, if you're the smartest guy in the room, get the F out of that room. And I've been able to sort of bump elbows and become really good friends with a lot of like really wonderful, smart, successful, driven people. And I've learned a lot from them, and they've been mentors, and I've been able to help their sons, and they've been able to help me just grow as a person in whatever area I needed to grow. So it's an awesome life. It's hard to sort of articulate exactly what my title is. My mom still asks me what I do for a living. But it's wonderful. I love meeting new people. I love being around great people, finding new mentors, and helping as many people as I can.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing to me is, and this is one of the things that we really connected on when we first, got connected through Jules, which is helping as many people as we can. And that's something that's near and dear to my heart. It's one of the first words that comes out of my mouth anytime I think about a goal or a vision. And you do that for a ton of people. I really love the aspect too of taking the time to reflect. I know you're a big gratitude person as well, being, I get to help all these kids and I meet these families too, and I help the parents. But every time I'm talking with them, I'm learning. And I know that you are as competitive with winning as you are with learning. Right? Those two things go hand in hand for you. And I know that you're a big reader. How much have you grown, over the past just couple years, and what are your modalities for learning beyond just conversations with everybody you meet? The books you're reading, the podcast. I think one of the things I would love to do with this podcast and just aspirationally to inspire others to become savagely curious and learn as much as you can. I really, really want students that I work with to be like, I'm listening to podcasts and I'm getting juiced up about learning every day. And I'm reading books and I'm putting down social media because I now know it works. So I'm very passionate about moving things in that direction. Can you talk about learning for you, what that looks like?
I think you have to make it sort of part of your routine. Anything's a routine, right? Like part of you coming into our team was the weekly sessions we would have where we would sit down and the kids, I would say, would be forced to do these exercises with you, part of your curriculum, which became second nature. And they became excited to say, hey, what's next? I want to continue to learn more about myself and my teammates and all the things that I actually could control that I never even knew I had access to in my own brain and my own feelings. And for me, how am I going to grow? Like I actually like to read. I've been lucky enough that I've always loved reading, but meeting new people has been my new thing, whether it's listening to a podcast and meeting someone, whatever, online, or all of these wonderful parents and hearing their story and hearing what they're doing and hearing how they came through this or overcame something. And it's like, these people are so interesting to me. They're so successful, but most of them had to overcome a bunch of hurdles.
Yes.
I like learning through real life stories like that. And
Yes.
then nurturing those relationships. Part of the whole reason we coach and why you and I are friends is I want all of my kids to be friends, at least be great teammate friends. And I would love lifelong friends, but the relationships take work.
Yeah.
And I give a lot of, credence and effort to the relationships that I try to maintain with all the people that I meet. And
Yes.
I want to sort of instill that with my kids is a love of reading, a love of learning, and a love of relationships. Like take the effort to continue to be a great friend and to stay in touch and, build on these memories that we've sort of helped them cultivate.
So good. Yeah. And you've been a great friend to me, and I do
and I've learned a lot from you.
I appreciate you.
All the books I've read, I've learned probably more from you.
I appreciate
So it's a
you.
friendship and it's also a learning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I think about the
it's called you a tool, actually. Sorry about that.
Let's go. And I think about the I love that. I think about the phrase, I think it's a proverb, I am because we are. So I am in the position I am today with the academy, with the podcast, whatever, because of what we have done together, right? And that is definitely true in a team setting. And I think sometimes it's lost on us how connected we are with each other. And the reason the podcast is called the One Big Team Podcast, and we have the world there, is because my perspective on things is the concept of oneness. We're all connected intimately, way more than we could ever realize by the human eye. And when we perceive things that way, we act differently. When you walk around and you go, hey, we're one big team, we're one big family, you're much more willing to learn from your brother, from your sister, much more willing to have these curious conversations, much more willing to check in on other people, and others do the same for you. And, another thing in relationship building, whether it is coworkers, coaches, teammates, romantic, that was another thing that was never really taught, and the art of a relationship, whatever type of relationship it is another thing that needs to be educated. And you've done it in two ways with Torrey Pines. One, you and the girls program, bringing in the One Love Foundation, teaching young people on how to have healthy relationships and identify toxic relationships. Incredible. Super proud that I was able to help facilitate that this year. But also, we would talk all the time in detail about what it means to be a great teammate. And this is what it looks like, what it sounds like. Here's how to rep it out in practice. And every college coach talks about, we're looking for great teammates. And every kid hears it, and it's in one ear, out the other. And we spent a lot of time teaching it. It was one of the main things, being a confidence builder in others this year. One Big Team Podcast is powered by Mabry Academy. We are the leaders in comprehensive player and personal development. We are experts in preparing you today for where you want to be tomorrow. We have two big programs. We have our lacrosse program, where we run comprehensive one-on-one long-term coaching, college roadmap program, and the best group training in the country, specifically right here in the DMV area. And then we also have our mental performance department, where we also work in a one-on-one capacity with teams, schools, and club organizations. And we have multiple virtual programs that you can access right now. Please check out MabryAcademy.com if you are looking to up your game and take it to the next level. Appreciate you. How have you seen success in your players over the years? Like, when you give them that teaching, that framework on how to be a great teammate, how does that manifest on the field, in the experience, and then over the years?
And the only real way that we can teach how to be a good friend is to teach how to be a good teammate.
Yeah.
So in our little world, or our bubble of what we can control, is how you treat your teammates is sort of a model of how you should treat your friends. It takes effort.
Yep.
It takes empathy. It takes, sacrifice to some degree. Okay. Am I doing what's best for me, or am I doing what's best for the team? And oftentimes that's really hard for anyone, adults too. So putting yourself second in some regard is what makes a great friend.
Yeah.
And sort of putting, your needs behind someone else's. And I think that's through like we always talk about this, our classroom is the field, or the team room.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and I always joke with our kids, you can learn more from us, I hope, than any curriculum at your high school.
Yeah.
Or any YouTube video. Like, we want to teach you about how to fight.
Yes.
And I'm always sending the kids nuggets, quotes, or stuff on Instagram or here and there to try to have it be more than just lacrosse. Like, I want to look back and be like, we learned so much from those guys about. And that's really, in my opinion, what's the next evolution of coaching? It's, what are you doing besides just the sport? The sport is the vehicle.
Yeah.
It's enabled me to have a job and to get in front of this audience.
Yeah.
But what am I doing differently to enrich and enhance that and be be like, I guess, multiple.
Yeah.
Like I want to do more than just
Yes.
that's kind of where I'm at. And that's kind of why we're friends. That's kind of, you and I this spring had a double-edged sword. We came at him from every angle.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it was dope.
it was so fun. It was
So
the best.
yeah, did I know we were going to win the game, 18-4 in the championship? I didn't,
Yeah.
but it certainly makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Because of all that.
For sure.
That was
Yeah. I think there's two thoughts there. One is, and it's an important philosophy that we talk about, and it's important for me to go back and bring it up every chance I get, which is, we believe that we're the product of the content conversations that we have had. And again, being a part of a great culture, it's going to enhance the content you consume because you were very intentional about the way you designed the team room and the way you speak to the team and the people you put in front of the team. The content that they're getting regularly is on par with the best in athletic and personal development in the world. I have no doubt the things that I put in front of your team this year, the things that you put in front of the team over the years, it is on par with what the best coaches in the world are doing to develop these cohesive units. That's so important. That is massive. We're not just on the field. We're changing the way they perceive themselves and perceive the world around them and perceive each other. Because of this, a lot of magic happens. And then the conversations. So you start the content, now the conversations we're having are way different. And that's the way the world works. It's the way that we break through to that next level is by being able to have really good self-talk and to coach ourselves up, which was a big theme with these guys this year, is going from the inner critic to the inner coach, the inner champion, all of those good things. And with this, we were talking earlier, like I'm really passionate about seeing the education system change. And I know you are as well. So you said the evolution of coaching is really people getting in the room and being like, oh, I can't wait to develop great people. Winning will be a byproduct of that. What do you think? What do you hope for? What do you think is the evolution of the education system? How can it improve? What's next for us if we're, going in the right direction?
Well, I'd even do you one better. One of the things that I think you left out was it's also your culture is also what you follow and what you allow. Now, I think if we're having the right conversations and consuming the right content, there's no one that is looking to do wrong. But I think if you're allowing things and you're silent, you're almost condoning things. So I think, we also don't allow for certain content, I think, which is also.
Yes.
As far as what's the next evolution of just the education system in general, I think, you are way ahead of the curve with what you're doing. And I wish that your curriculum class could be in every high school. We're doing it after hours with a lacrosse team. I wish everyone in that school have a look at it. Because that's really what's important. Memorizing stuff for a test or quadratic equation or the periodic table, like, I don't know how far that actually gets you. I think it's something that's challenging. And if you can, do something that's hard, you deserve to move on in life. But I think all of the things that we're lacking as a society, that you're seeing now is from the last 50 years of not being taught the vital skills that we have.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a big miss. That's why we're such a divided society. And you go on about this topic for hours, but the foundational piece is we didn't get taught any of these things. Emotional, mental, cognitive, we skipped over all those things.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. I look back on, someone asked me the other night, just talking about my journey, where I'm at now. And we're talking a lot about personal development and we're going back and forth. He's naming a book. I'm talking about the book. I'm naming a book. He knows the book. And we're just having this nerd out conversation on personal development, leadership, communication skills, mindset. And he's like, what started you on this path? And I was like, well, I could go back to childhood and identify, key things in the journey. But I do remember in college going, and I'm proud, but I also, I remember saying, I'm going to do the least amount of work possible on these subjects that I'm not passionate about. And I'm going to read all of these other personal development books that I want to read in my time. I made that decision. And it didn't make school easy. It kind of made it really stressful at times, right? And I lacked a lot of executive functioning skills and ability to manage my time better and having clear goals around my schoolwork. So it was not easy, but I did make a decision to self-educate. And I know that it was the right decision for me. And you're saying we weren't taught these things. We went out and read the books and had listened to the podcasts and learned through trial and error. And I agree. What Jono was referring to, is teaching mental skills in schools and putting that at the forefront, teaching mindfulness on day one and every day going forward. And we will live in a much better society from that. So I'm super passionate about it. We are at the Academy, and I know you are too, because to you, it makes sense. You want to help as many people as you can. You want to see better human beings on this planet, and it's going to come through education, and it's going to come from really great cultures. Let's get to work.
Let's put it this way. I'm an adult. And I was taking as much interest and as many notes in all that you were teaching as a 45-year-old person, because I had missed that too. I didn't get any of that when I was growing up. Yeah. And here I am, an adult, still trying to figure it all out. And I'm craving the content that you're putting out because it's necessary and I'm learning. And I wish I'd learned all this earlier. So sure, I have vested interest in it, selfishly for myself.
I love it.
And my continued growth, and obviously for the kids.
Yeah.
Because we're failing them in some regard.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
in that sense, you've seen me now teach over 2 seasons. You got the BPO sticker on the sweatshirt. What are some of the things that you enjoyed the most? Maybe you enjoyed watching the kids do the activities or implement, and you saw, wow, that strategy really worked, or something that was taught that you were able to implement for yourself. Are there any specific sessions that we had run or skills, strategies, formulas that we talked about that really hit home for you?
yeah, I think just the basic one of like, what are you doing really well now in your life? What could you do better? And kind of what do you want to eliminate? I think something as simple as that, asking yourself that every day is a wonderful thing to just, it's not like it's an AP level course. It's some very basic, easy to do things that can move the needle forward for anybody, right? And then making it all tangible. Everyone's journaling. I mean, they're writing all these things down for you and then they're speaking them.
Yeah.
So that putting it from your head to pen to paper helps make it really tangible. Speaking it out, it gives you the courage to learn how to speak in public, which I thought our kids really lacked. That was one skill that they lacked. And you have to own it and be passionate. And I thought for the team dynamic, me relinquishing the power and control and actually becoming a learner myself and letting you do it was a huge show of just not only respect, but just maturation. Like, I'm not in control. You're bringing this guy in. I'm surrendering to this guy. I want you to also surrender to him, and let's all learn from him. And it's okay to have multiple leaders learn from him. I thought that was a win. I thought the kids really took a lot out of that juxtaposition of you running the team 2 days a week and all of the other coaches being kind of lifelong learners in the process.
That's such a great point, because I think in that, again, coming from the head coach position to release control to do what's best for the group, right? Which takes, like you said, a lot of maturity and sound perspective. But yeah, it does. It demonstrates trust. It demonstrates role clarity. It demonstrates followership as much as leadership. And those two things are so closely related. So it probably even had more of an effect than we ever really talked about, because we never had an issue with guys not following the leaders this year. They were really good. And last year, and again, this also, I want to acknowledge the exercise that you're referring to, the well, better now, right? And these simple reflection questions. The reason that they work so well is because of the culture that has been established, because of the years of guys putting their blood, sweat, and tears into something. So their willingness to give their best effort in the exercise and not hold back, their willingness to be vulnerable and share their thoughts and feelings in front of the group made the magic, right? So anyone can use, what are you doing well? What do you want to do better? Now, what are you going to do? Please use it every day. I do it all the time. Literally did it twice today already. But the magic in a team setting is when the trust is there, the energy is sound, the care is there, the whole vibe is right. So I want to acknowledge that those things don't work without the years and the energy just being intentionally built. But yeah, you're right. I think that probably did a lot more. And this reminds me that, like, most things are caught. A lot of things are taught. Most things are caught. So we taught them a lot this year. I wonder what things were just caught by them watching. Go ahead.
I was going to say, someone commented in the Instagram one time, because we'd always put those images up of us meeting in the team room, and someone was like, "Oh, cool. Keep talking about your sitting around and talking about your feelings.
No,
great program." I was like, "This is my whole point. Like, I love it."
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my God.
We will talk about our feelings, and we will grow and we'll get better. And then we're going to smoke you on the field.
Oh my God, that's
just
incredible.
A chirp. I mean, you've made it when you have haters. You maybe have more than we need right at the moment, but I always find just kind of joy in it.
Yeah, no doubt.
People only are negative about things that they're upset about or jealous of or insecure about. It's a projection. So I take it for what it's worth, but I thought that was a funny one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I really enjoyed in year one when we talked about rat poison. I think that had a really, again, it's so simple. I was actually talking to the coach about this the other day, and he brought something up, and I said, "Oh, use the rat poison perspective." And that comes from Nick Saban, and he said, "Hey, there's two types of rat poison. One is people talking bad about you, and that's great. Let's use it. Like, we're good with this. And then the other one is when people saying how good you are, and that's fatal." And I think that you took that and you said great, and you got creative with it. How do you see, and we use a lot of different modalities. I share a lot of videos. We talk a lot of stories, a lot of conversations. We did different ways for them to engage with each other. What are some of the stories that you maybe go back to, or the mottos? I think 5 fingers versus the fist. Like, what are some of those things for you that you find in storytelling to really motivate people?
First, I do want to acknowledge that something you just said, which comes back to our earlier point about how everyone learns differently.
Yes.
I talked earlier about how you measure how high a fish can jump.
Yeah.
That's not a good barometer. You're coming at the kids from 4 or 5 different modalities, whether it's spoken word conversation, whether it's visual. You had a lot of great videos, whether it was you publicly speaking, them listening, them orating back to you. Like, you were able to reach every single kid on that team because all of them learn differently. And I think that was really the key to your success. If you're just going to talk at someone, it wouldn't have been the same. But I think as far as the storytelling, the 5 fingers versus the fist, I think is always apropos of that particular program, because we always have talent.
Yeah.
The talent rich environment, every sport in that area, given the DNA. And that's sort of one I always go back to, because it's never, ever been for a lack of that.
Yeah.
And so the 5 fingers versus the fist for all of you at home is just the connected team, the cohesive team will always beat the more talented team. And that was a big issue we struggled with, back in the day. And so it's stuck. There's a lot of, I wish the kids would be on here for their version of the one-liners that stick out to them.
Oh,
there's
so
a lot
good.
of them. But the biggest thing will always be being connected.
Yeah.
And that's just, I don't coach because I love lacrosse. I like all sports. I like lacrosse. It's just, I like being around the group, the kids, and making teams. And, someone the other day was like, "How long are you going to do that for?" Live my life, like forever. Like, what kind of question is that? But I'm on a different world with it.
Yeah.
And it's my life's work, and I love it. And every new year is a new batch of wonderful kids to mold and help, and that's really exciting. I mean, if you can get fired up naturally to go to work, then you're winning in life.
Totally.
I feel good about what we're doing. I mean, there's some downsides, but I feel good about what we're doing.
Yeah.
We like a lot.
Yeah.
How many of your friends really like get fired up for their jobs?
I know. And that always kind of breaks my heart when I think about how many people have fallen into career paths that they're not overly passionate about. And I also want to be an inspirational voice for young athletes that I get to work with. Anyone, to just, why not? We're here for a short amount of time. Might as well go for it. But also with the young athletes, I remember, and I give one of my best friends a hard time about this, about to graduate. He's like, "Maze, what are you going to do?" I'm a coach. He goes, "What do you mean? Is he going to be a teacher?" I go, "No, I'm going to go coach. I don't want to teach. I just want to coach." He's like, "What's your plan?" And I go, "I don't really have a plan. I know that I'm going to go help people. I got this." And he was like, "It's not a good idea." He was just like, he was like, straight up told me, "Not a good idea." And we caught up the other day, and I love reminding him of that. But it was the best idea because I just followed what I love. And there was a lot of years of not financial security and stability, a lot of just on the field as much as I could be, but I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I couldn't be happier. And one of my favorite questions to ask people, if you had all the money in the world, how much would you really change? And for you, if you had all the money in the world, would you stop coaching high school lacrosse?
Let's be honest. I live a very bougie lifestyle on no money. So no, but I think not only are you doing what you love, but you specifically have also carved out like kind of an interesting career niche.
Sure.
It's like the Office Space line. What would you say you do? Like, what we do isn't exactly like, I couldn't answer that in one word.
Sure.
Like, it's not just coach, not just, life skills coach or lacrosse coach, or, it's a sort of a hybrid niche that we've created that incorporates a lot of things and kind of blazed your own trail. And I think that just speaks to who you and I are as learners and people, and what our interests are. It's not just one thing. And, carving out your own path and creating your own sort of title and job description takes some courage, and it's outside the box, but I think it's ultimately what's super rewarding, and it's called basically playing to your strengths. I think you've created a nice life doing a lot of different things and enveloping them into one.
Yeah. Well, you just said, like, you and I have gone on this journey individually to live lives that we love, to help people and do these things. And one of the common threads, like you said, we're very curious. We want to learn. Personal development is big for us. And I was sharing with you one of my goals I wrote down the other day is that in a year from now, I want to be able to say that my network is amongst the most positive and influential people in the world. And you were like, yes, that's great. And I think maybe not everybody is born with this personal development drive, this curiosity, but I really want to encourage people, like, get on board. It's the game. It's the best game to get involved with: growth, evolution, developing your skill set, doing what you're passionate about. It's going to have you more fulfilled at the end of the day. You're going to impact more lives. And again, I said on another episode, like, we don't need any more people playing small. Like, let's grow up. Like, we need people to go for it and to take the time to reflect, ask themselves what fires them up, what's going to get them excited about life, and what do they need to do to get better? What room do they need to get in with so that they can learn from others, to live a more inspired life? And it's something I'm really, really passionate about. And I'm thankful that you've ended up in my network. And I'm sure you'll be in that network of friends in a year from now. And I'm sure it will grow for both of us.
Yeah. I mean, show me your circle. I'll show you where you're going. And I think, you don't want to have a giant circle. You want to keep it relatively tight, but you do want to meet a lot of people along the way.
Yeah.
And the ones that make sense or that you can learn from or that you gel with, you want to keep near and dear. And,
Sure.
and that's going to help you grow, and it's going to help you be more fulfilled and happier.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I've friends with a lot of kids I coach that are younger. I've been able to meet a lot of their parents that are older, and then having our own age friends just from osmosis or growing up. Like, that's a wonderful sort of hybrid Venn diagram of learning so many different things from so many different, age people and life experience.
Yeah.
So it's you and I are thirsty.
Yes.
And, again, like, anytime you talk to someone that's about to die or all these old people, what do they always say? I wish I did all the things I didn't do.
Yeah.
No one says, I wish I spent more time on myself.
Yeah.
Couch or, that's cliche, but it's like, I think you and I both have a thirst for all of it.
Yes.
Good thing.
It's a great thing. I completely agree.
Energy's good.
No doubt about it. And there is another aspect that you hold a very unique seat in the whole landscape of lacrosse, but specifically Western lacrosse, right? Like what you guys do with the Adrenaline All American game, West Coast Stars, what you have done with Torrey and teams that you compete with. Can you talk about maybe the pride that you have? I mean, you didn't grow up on the West Coast. You moved out there 25 years ago, and you just started chipping away with one team and then built it up. And then with Adrenaline, I'm blown away by the talent out there. The first time I got on the field with you guys, first I'll say this, the first time I got in the classroom, because it was preceding the field, I told the guys, I said, this is special. I could feel it. This is not normal. This is way above average. I need to say that right away. And I did. And I let them know because it's the truth. And then on the field, I was like, oh, wow, these guys are incredible. And then so many of the teams on the West Coast, and I'm just saying this as if like I'm in shock. I know this now. There's not many people that do. And West Coast Stars teams, they come out here and kick the crap out of people all the time. How much pride. And oh my gosh, how many players in the PLL right now, guys and All Americans, boards and watch lists, all of these things. How much pride do you have in like what Western lacrosse has become and the hand that you've had in it?
It's interesting because I'm not from the West Coast, but I think, like you said, people see the byproduct success. They've got 11 guys in the PLL right now, which is an amazing statistic. Not that there's even a PLL is crazy, but life is all about timing. Moving out there in 2003, lacrosse had just started as a high school sport. There were no youth leagues. There was no club. And I had just landed, boots on the ground. A couple guys were starting a youth league named Adrenaline. I got in. I was coaching 3 youth teams. I was running the club all summer. And then when I was in graduate school, September to May, I was going around to PE classes with a trunk full of mini sticks and mini nets and walking in knowing nobody, teaching the game. For 2 years I did that.
Wow.
And then I was teaching, as a teacher, I'm begging every kid in the school. I'm teaching middle school at the time to play high school lacrosse.
Wow.
Oh, I'll try your stupid sport coach. Remember, I always laugh with Jake Sayo, who I just went to his wedding in December, and his whole, start to lacrosse was he had a C- in my history class, my geography class. It's coming down to the wire. we're in, first semester. He's the best athlete in maybe the state. And I say, listen, man, we can make this go away. If you play lacrosse in the spring, I can give you a B minus. Probably shouldn't be saying this, but statute of limitations is gone.
We're good.
And he's like, all right, I'll try your stupid sport. Well, young Jake would go on to play at Duke and play in the MLL and now live a lovely life, but begging. And that's what the sport was. No one knew what it was. If you were a real athlete, you played baseball and football. And so, not only did I do a lot of work in the weeds to grow the sport, but also to grow the popularity of the sport, if that makes sense, to get not just kids, but the better kids to play the sport. And yeah, now all the fun stuff, all American game, kids playing in college and, in the weeds, no one knew who I was. I wasn't coaching at a glamorous high school. I wasn't, it was all the dirty work, that I look back on and I'm like sort of proud and also for wow.
So
I mean, you couldn't sit in my car. It was back to the gills and just, it is what it is. But I think, like anything, you think about, the Google guys, like being in the garage and they start the first office, or Jeff Bezos within their own basement and humble beginning.
Yeah. It's incredible, man.
But it makes it better, right?
Yeah, it really does. And I think one of the things it just came to me, one of the things I hope that this podcast does in the conversations are much more real than clips on social media, right? And it's not in everybody's nature to recap their life story and share the struggles that are going on behind the scenes and what it took to get to certain places. We just show highlights, and it is what it is. So I hope this is a venue for a lot more real conversations. And one of the things that I've found in recent podcasts is, just consistent theme, talking to people that are currently experiencing a great level of success and have built special things. And they all start off with a struggle. They start off going on that hero's journey at a place that isn't so shiny. And I think it's a really good thing for everyone to hear. I think if I heard you say that when I started my coaching career and then found out about Torrey Pines, I think that would have motivated me even more. No doubt about it. Thankfully I had enough excitement to go forward, but hopefully there is a young coach that hears that and is like, yeah, I am right now currently in this region with the mini nets and the goals or whatever sport it is. And I'm going out to PE classes to grow this sport, and knowing that, you just keep going and help as many people as you can. And you enjoy the experience to the nth degree and you have a great life.
And, doing private lessons all hours of the day just to scrape together some money and tutoring kids. You name it. I was a man nanny. I was, babysitter extraordinaire, house sitter, dog sitter, just anything I could do to stay out in San Diego and live and get by and not have to move home. And also, lacrosse happened to be like, equal to all the gosh. Wild ride.
Yeah, it's a great thing, man. What is the most exciting thing for you now? Like, what do you look forward to the most? And it could be with Adrenaline or West Coast Stars. It could be I know that you are extremely passionate about helping your players get to the next level. That's a life dream of theirs. It's a very challenging thing to navigate the recruiting circuit. And I know, many times when we're together, you're on the phone. Many, many times you're on the phone with college coaches. And I also maybe have a question about, what those guys are saying about, hey, this is what we're looking for, just to make sure we drive home how important character is.
Sure.
But, what's the most exciting thing coming down the line for you?
Well, I think obviously coaching will always be my passion, and then just getting ready for whatever season it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite thing that I do is coach high school team. But I think the biggest challenge right now is turning on like the business hat and learning more about, as an owner of a company, how to sort of grow our business. And that's so out of my sort of like frame of reference. I never took business classes, but now all of a sudden I own a company that is, apparel company. It's a marketing company. It's an event company. And how do we grow that? And I need to be more involved in that than I've been before. Just to happen at this point, almost like a tipping inflection point for us. It's a very saturated space, and like anything, you got to keep growing and evolving and changing. So that'll be my biggest challenge for the next year. And I'm interested in to see how that turns out. As far as coaching goes and recruiting, the kids have to do their job. I always tell the kids, like, help me help you. You have to come here and play well. You have to come here and put on a product that shows that you care, that you hustle, that you're athletic, that you're a good teammate, and then I can do my job. And I would liken the recruiting thing to anything in business where it's just sort of a trusted network. Like, you want to know who you're doing business with. What's their track record? Can you trust them? Are they going to shoot you straight? Imagine like hiring someone off a resume off Google, or talking to a guy that's been in the industry for 20 years that they worked for.
Yeah.
And so, the resume guy might be a one-off. He could be great. an unknown that just happened to see the showcase.
Yep.
It's an example for metaphor. And we're going to call the guy that you've been doing business with that, has access to all these interns that work for him, and you want to hire one of them.
Yep.
Good education, good work ethic. And so I try to be as honest as I can and as forthcoming as I can with the whole picture. And I've done a good job of seeing where some kids might fit best and not fit. And, in just 20 years of doing it, I think been able to help a lot of kids, and will continue to help us help more kids.
Yes.
The minute you steer somebody wrong, screw somebody over, for lack of a better term, that relationship becomes fragile.
Totally.
And it's hard to do business.
Yep.
So but if kids are listening, everyone is good at lacrosse. I would say like the margin of difference is this, like from the guy at Harvard to the guy at Tufts to the guy at Michigan, like it's this small. Everyone's good. What's going to separate? Doing multiple things, have to have good grades. And you got to be a glue guy. You got to have.
Yes.
It's this fine.
Yeah. We had a conversation earlier about a college coach, and I shared this with you. And I said, you probably have experiences like this more often than I do, just with the frequency that you talk to these college coaches. And he said, we got one spot left in this class. We don't care what position he is. And we really don't even care if he ever steps on the field in his time here. We're looking for a glue guy. We're looking for the guy with the intangibles that is going to make this team better. We needed a couple more of those guys on the roster this past year, and that's what we're looking for. And I remember it was the first time it was that clear. Every coach always wants to hear about the character. It's up there at the front, right? They want to know he's a good person, good family, all those things. But it was the first time they just said, this is the exact thing that we're looking for. How prevalent is conversations like that for you and coaches, getting in the weeds about a kid's mindset and their lifestyle and their character?
I mean, I think it's league specific. I mean, if you're in the Ivy League with the NESCAC, like you are so hamstrung by an academic index or a band system where like the kid has to have XYZ or is inadmissible. But I think the reality and what's really lost on some of these college coaches is that, for argument's sake, let's say there's actually, for round numbers, 60 kids in a team right now. Let's remember that 10 play at a time.
Yeah.
So let's say 25 guys play regularly. You have 30-ish guys that aren't going to play much. They better be the hardest working guys.
Yeah.
When you recruit them, they better be the glue guys. They better love the sport. They better love their teammate. They better love getting up early and all the things and all the sacrifice, because they're not going to play.
Yeah.
And they better love helping the team. And so instead of saying, I want the best available players, is this guy going to be a starter for me? It's like, well, he might not be. And so in that case, is this guy well-rounded? Because in the event that he's not a starter, since you already have a ton of guys ahead of him and you're going to carry 60, what else? Because those guys will make or break your culture.
Yeah,
the guys that aren't playing,
right.
They will destroy your culture.
Yeah.
Your scout guys aren't working hard. Forget about off the field stuff. And so I think, your coach asking those questions and desiring those qualities in what he probably assumes to be a bottom 30 guy potentially is huge.
Yeah.
So who cares how good you are at lacrosse, in my opinion, to some degree.
Yeah.
So this comes back to everything we've already talked about.
Yes. Yeah.
Part of the story.
Yeah. The curriculum, the mental skills, the character, the community, the culture, all the things that you've prioritized for a really long time. And I've been so fortunate. I learned so much by being in the room with you and the team. I want to kind of transition us out here with the success formula, right? So what we created together, success equals fun times effort plus role clarity, and some UN as far as getting stickers for the helmets. And it was something that we bought into. What did that formula, you think, do for the team this spring?
You make things simple, make them comprehensible, and you make them excitable. Then it's just there. And you meet the kids halfway. Fun was one of the criteria. Now we had to sort of augment and describe what fun meant and what fun wasn't.
Yes.
But I think we're here with you on this journey. We also want to have fun. Okay, but even to have this fun that we all want, we also have to do X, Y, and Z, which in this case was, the role clarity piece to me was the biggest part of it. It was not everyone's going to have the role that they want or the superstar role. We need to give you your role. We need to sort of find out what it is, and then you need to absolutely own it.
Yeah.
And I think kids really found great fodder in whether it was on the field, and for a lot of guys, it was not even playing. Yeah. It wasn't even you're a D-mini or you're a wing guy. You're just a glue guy in practice. Yeah. You're the sideline type guy. Yep. And I think, you just make it clear and concise, and then you make it cool. Yeah. Oh, why is this guy celebrating on the sideline? What a loser. What a hardo. nope, that's his role.
Yeah.
And we all take our roles very seriously.
Yes.
That's why we're competing.
Yeah.
I think you doing that gave them the permission to feel good about celebrating sideline, doing a dance, or being a wing guy and getting a tough GB and being okay with that being just role.
Yeah.
So and you also sort of like elevate the status of the roles by like knowledge.
Sure. And I know fun was a big piece for us. And I'll be honest, just from year one working together to year two, my perception was that you had a lot of fun there. You were just your willingness to crack jokes. It seemed like you had a lot of fun this season. Would you say it was one of the more fun seasons and experiences you've had?
I would say that, and I would say if guys came back to visit from 5, 6, 7 years ago and watched us practice and watched our interactions and demeanor, they would be like, "Where was this when we were here?" So yeah, I think we have a good balance. But again, that's on to next year. Now we got to start all over again.
We're gonna start all over. Yeah.
Who knows what the success formula will be for next year's group?
Oh, so good. I appreciate you so much, man. You've been a great friend, a great mentor. Always learn so much from you. Our time to me is precious, super valuable. So grateful. Many good things to come for you, for us. All good.
Love it.
I appreciate you, brother.
EP out today.
EP out. Best possible outcome is always on the mind. Appreciate you, brother.